People talk about wanting to speak things into existence. Well, I have some things that I need to speak that exist, but they've been laying inside in the darkness, and it's about time that they make their surface so that I can get a better understanding of what's going on inside of me, so that I could be a better me. You know, it's so many people in the world who have been through things that, are painful. And the way that they deal with it is they keep it inside, they bottle their feelings up. Sometimes they resort to anger. Sometimes they resort to violence. Sometimes they resort to destructive behaviors such as drug abuse or alcoholism, or maybe even sexual perverse types of tendencies. Can you really blame them if they don't have the strength, which I know that a lot of those types of issues stems from weakness. It's a weakness that you feel when you've been through a lot of things that are hard to deal with, and you don't have an outlet, and you bottling them up. At some point, you feel as though you are going to explode inside. And so that, those types of behaviors stem from the explosions that are constantly inside needing to come out. I'm willing to speak on those things for myself. I'm willing to speak on the explosions inside that go off. And, it's not something that is an easy thing to discuss, because most of the time when you've been through hurtful things, there's something inside of you that feels as though if I talk about this, that makes me a weaker person. If I try to get someone to understand me, that is a symbolism of a weakness. And it should have been taught to us as children that if someone makes you hurt, that doesn't mean that you deserved it. That doesn't mean that you did something wrong. If someone makes you hurt, it was something wrong with them. It's so many of us who did not get that type of, what can I say? We didn't get that type of, just no one told us that. And when you go through things, you do, a part of those explosions, you do blame yourself. It's like, well, this was my fault. If I hadn't have been so weak, if I hadn't have been so vulnerable, if I hadn't have been so, to the points of even sometimes, self-hatred, such a terrible person. And, like I said, those are things that are not the easiest things in the world to talk about and discuss, especially if it's something, stemming from personal experiences, growing up in your childhood, as in my case, going through abuse as a child, verbal abuse, as far as, you're not good enough. You're always this, you're always that. I shouldn't have had you. You're not this, you're not that. And then it was a constant thing. It was drilled in from such a young age that I never had the chance to grow. It was as if, someone took me and buried me so deep that there was nothing to grow. Like literally, I was buried within. That's how I felt. And when you get that time and time again in life, it's like, I've been buried so many times. I'm so deep. If I were to speak, who would even hear me anyway? Who was there to even understand? Like, you feel as though there's no one. And so that is why it is so important to find, at a certain point in your life, to find a resource. For me, it was therapy. And it took me all those years, having gone through so much, having gone through verbal abuse, having gone through seeing my parents, in altercations from a very young age, and witnessing my father being an alcoholic and my mother having manic depression, and I mean, just such a dysfunctional family, and not having any form of real treatment as far as, mental for that. It was just, I was, I was just really like spiraling more and more and more and more and more out of control emotionally. And then to have faced things in my